See, when they say that, now you get nervous. You're like, what?
Yeah. I'm super conversational, okay? Don't worry about the headphones.
Okay.
Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Sometimes it's weird to hear your echo voice.
Well, I mean, I did it on the podcast, so
Oh, yeah.
it's fine with that.
First intro.
Don't worry.
How long is the first segment?
Well, altogether, it'll be the same as what you always
It's
have
the
when
usual.
you're here. It's the usual. Are we on Facebook Live? Hey, we're about to go on air. Dahlia in for Rob. Unless, well, I had to clarify that I'm not Rob still.
They couldn't tell? I think they could tell.
Good morning to you. I am Dahlia in for Rob Snow. He's going to be back with you Tuesday, so I will be with you Monday. And now that we've learned at least 2 days of the week here, I could teach you about others, but you could join me on Saturday and Sundays on the goods to find out about other days of the week. I am getting prepared for our in-studio political panel. You're going to get a little politics for lunch. And by the way, 0 calories. But right now, we are going to celebrate Pride. Because no matter who you are, Pride is something to celebrate. And by the way, you can join us on 580 CFRA's Facebook page because we're doing this on Facebook Live as well, so you can see some behind the scenes here. And you can celebrate Pride at Ottawa's Queer Sphere Expo if you are a part of the LGBTQ community. Pride is also about a right to exist peacefully and without persecution. So joining me now, we have a few people who will be at Queer Sphere this weekend. The guy who started it all, Jesse Reynolds. Welcome back to News and Views, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, whatever.
I was gonna say welcome back to News and Views, sir.
That works.
And then I called you show because you are practically a show
Well,
on your
thank
own.
you. Yeah, no, I prefer that. And just to clarify, everybody's welcome at Queer Sphere.
Of
You don't have to be a
course.
member of the community. If you're part of the sphere, if you know someone who is, come on, have a great time.
Let's all celebrate
Yeah.
it. And joining us also to celebrate this, we have an Ottawa burlesque performer who has led 2 different lives, and she's embracing just one right now. I'm going to go by the performer's name, Candy Secret. Welcome to News and Views.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody.
Also with us, we have from Stroked Ego, a menswear store, we have Kevin Martin, who's been able to see the change and the progress made through the past decade through a clothing store. So thank you for taking your time to join us today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I want to get to this because Candy Secret, also known as Lana Bolton, your story of how you became a burlesque dancer makes for quite the journey. How did it begin?
So, it began actually at a Halloween party. I was at a friend's Halloween party, and there was a burlesque performer named Lana Lovecakes, who was part of the Capital T's Burlesque here in Ottawa, and so she was one of the entertainers, and we got to chatting, and I asked her if there was anyone in Ottawa who was trans, male to female, doing burlesque, and she said no, not that she knew of. So it sort of like went from there. I went and saw one of her shows at Fat Boy's Southern Smokehouse down on Murray Street, and the one host that was there asked if I enjoyed the show. I said yes. I said, how would one get into it? He sort of told me to go to an evening of sin with Holly Sin at the Rainbow Bistro, and that's how I started.
How things would start from the very beginning, I would imagine, to be very different because, like you said, you're trans. The first time you put on a dress, not going out into public, but the first time you put on a dress, makeup, how did it feel?
First time I put on a dress was probably my mom's dress, and it made me feel like I arrived. Yeah.
What did you feel like when you had to wear boys' clothes?
Honestly, I don't really remember the first time, but I do know from dressing more of a female on like weekends and doing drag and stuff like that, then when I would have to go back into boy mode, that's when I felt really uncomfortable.
If you're just joining us, I'm Dahlia in for Rob on News and Views, and it is Pride Month, and so we are celebrating Pride, but there are people who are also taking this month to show the progress we've made, the progress we still need to make, the right to exist peacefully and without persecution. And right now you're hearing a story from Lana Bolton, who's a performer named Candy Secret, a transgender burlesque performer. There's so many questions to get to. I mean, I want to have a conversation with Kevin, who is also here, so he could talk about how the clothing industry and how retail has changed in these sorts of things. But just going to something that seems so simple and so innocuous as dating. Dating is such a challenge in this world already, no matter who you are. I cannot imagine the extra layers of challenge that come with being a trans woman and dating. What's that like for you?
It's BS.
We were just talking
It's
about
like
it
that
before on
for
the way
me
here.
too, my dear.
I mean, like, honestly, dating as a trans woman is like, I mean, it's nice that like Tinder has definitely like advanced and like being able to have a subcategory to include any gender that is out there. And I always make a point to have my gender and who I am in my bio. But more often than not, guys just don't know how to read. They just stare at your photo because you're a hot chick and they send you a message. So, like, guys, learn how to read a profile.
So what's it like when you meet them for that first date?
Usually we go for drinks because alcohol is always a good choice. And usually it goes fairly well. Typically I'm a bit nervous just because like meeting somebody new. But then they tend to also be a bit nervous too. Especially if they've never gone out with a trans woman before, which is usually the case. But usually you can weed them out online before making that date.
This is interesting, though, to bring this up before we move on, because seeing that it's Pride and Arn Pryor and McNabb Brayside both raising pride flags for the first time, I want to get to that conversation. But right now, hearing about this and Candy's experiences when she's going on dates as a trans woman, because I don't think that a lot of people are going to share their personal lives, right?
Yeah.
And so there could be guys who are going out on dates with you who aren't telling their friends, I went out with a trans woman, because it might not be okay to talk about. They might not feel comfortable talking about it. So what's the diversity of people that you go out with like?
It varies. Anywhere from like a lawyer to, you know, like a coach for a football team. Usually the case is their friends probably most likely 100% don't know that they're going on a date with a trans woman. For the most part, they feel that everyone is staring at them, or everyone knows that they're in public with a trans woman, but really it has to do with their own insecurities and their own bigotry, I want to say. Because most people aren't going to know that, you know, they're out on a date with a trans woman. I mean, they will now because of my own story. But for the most part, it varies with each.
How does that make you feel when somebody is out on a date with you and you can sense their discomfort and their inner narrative?
Honestly, it pisses me off. Like, just like, no one cares that much about you that you're on a date with a trans woman. Everyone's so busy with their own lives. They don't care. Really, they don't care. It's their own insecurities on how their friends may view them and how their family may view them as gay, even though they are not. But yeah, so I mean, it's definitely annoying.
It seems as though as we are learning more and more about the LGBTQ community and all of the variances in it, people understand things less. And they're more afraid because there's so much more information now coming at them. People are learning about pansexualism. Yeah. They're learning about all of these. Am I gay if I'm going out with a trans woman?
Yeah.
They don't know. So I think that these sorts of conversations are important to have.
Oh, definitely. So
that people can understand. And this is just another way that, you know, this is a community. We are all part of it because we're all on the spectrum of the community, but it's the people on the fringes within that community who are taking the hits, and you're still fighting for your right to exist peacefully without persecution.
I definitely would have to say that at the end of the day, if people can just date people and leave their sexualities behind and their genders behind, and just, if you want to date somebody, date them. If you want to sleep with somebody, sleep with them, and like leave the labels like just
on the cans of food.
Yeah, leave them in the closet, you know? Like, just date who you want to date, be with who you want to be, and who cares? As long as two people are loving each other, it shouldn't matter what genitalia they have, what sexuality they have, what gender they have. It just,
It's funny because earlier I was having this conversation about the political spectrum. Because everybody likes to choose where they are on it. They like to say, I'm center, I'm left of center, I'm to the right, I'm here and there. I don't see the political spectrum as linear like everybody else. I see it as just things, circles overlapping in one big circle of unity. And I think that if people could understand politics in that way, they might look at it differently. And I think that that is going to even what you're saying about sexuality. I'm Dahlia. We're going to continue this conversation as we are in Pride Month. We are just ahead of the Queer Sphere Expo.
Woo!
And Jesse Reynolds is here adding the color. We are going to delve into how the community has changed over the past 10 years. And Arn Pryor and McNabb Braeside, first time Eastern Ontario municipalities raising the rainbow flag. That is still ahead right here on the News and Views. You can catch some behind the scenes stuff right now on Facebook Live. I'm Dahlia, more on 580 CFRA, a lot on its Facebook page right now. Oh, so we're still coming back. We're still coming back. So we're going to have that conversation. We're going to dive in. We're going to talk about the Pride flag. I don't know. We were having this conversation. Anna's the producer. She's holding the camera right there. We were having this conversation about straight pride the other day. This whole stupid movement.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you guys even feel about acknowledging it and giving it any airtime. Do you want to speak to it in any way, or should we just gloss on over and talk about the things that
I think we should gloss over it because straight pride is every day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like it's a way, because the difference is that when we talk about, to me, this is how I see it as a heterosexual female. So what do I know? But I see it as you with pride still fighting for this right to exist peacefully. I don't want you to be tolerated. I just want you to be accepted, because I don't like tolerance. I really hate that word. And I feel like straight pride, they're saying, well, it's a celebration of who we are. Great, but you're not fighting, you're not struggling for a right to exist.
It's never been
peacefully.
unacceptable.
Yeah, so you're just celebrating you. So pride, you're defining pride in a way that's working towards demeaning and being derogatory and like throwing shade to somebody else. So that's why it's an underhanded backstabbing sort of way to do it.
Oh, totally.
And it's taking the name pride and it's changing what it actually means.
My question is, are they going to come out with their own colored flag? No.
Yeah. Well, they had it. It's pink and blue, but like diagonal.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's all similar to the trans flag almost. But you know what? Straight pride is every Saturday at Costco. Let's be honest. Thank you, Joyce. No.
Thanks, Susan.
Yeah.
Karen.
It's just, they've never been unaccepted.
You know what? Let me do this.
Well, we can make fun of
Talking
it,
about
but
it. We just did. We're on Facebook
Yeah.
Live. So, we will talk about, if you guys see me do this, by the way, if you see me do this, that means I'm telling them to wrap it up. So just finish your thought, whoever's doing that, and then of course you can say, hey everybody, come on out to Queer Sphere Expo.
This weekend at the Shaw Center, queersphere.ca.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
So when we come back from commercial, we will talk about your store.
Okay.
Are you co-owner or owner?
Corner.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I had written down.
Someone did a research. That's awesome.
I always do my research. Are you kidding? And I know what underwear you're wearing too.
You can probably guess.
I won't.
Yeah.
Facebook Live could get a little bit, maybe PG-13.
Actually, in the hour.
So we'll talk about your store. Yeah, these are the things that actually go on. I tell the guests what we're going to talk about next, but then what you'll see happen is we actually don't talk about any of those things because I go off and I Dahlia-gress. Dahlia-aggressions. I go off on a tangerine sometimes. I have to not take credit for tangerine. I got that from Jim Richards. He's a great host in Toronto. I like him a lot. All right, you guys, are we ready for this?
Woo!
Funny thing is, you guys are all sitting and I'm standing. And I'm like the same height.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was trying to make a short comment.
I have a short torso, so I appear like I'm shorter when I'm sitting, and then it's like...
I have tall hair. Good morning, almost afternoon. I'm Dahlia in for Rob Snow on News and Views. Still ahead, we are going to get to our in-studio political panel and a little politics for lunch as we go over Doug Ford's 1-year anniversary and so much more. But right now, we're on Facebook Live, so you can catch us there and you can see some behind the scenes from our conversation, which we're not going to talk about a certain conversation that we just had, but if you want to see what it was, we don't censor it like the Justice Committee does. We have everything on tape. You can watch that on 580 CFRA's Facebook page. But since it is Pride Month and just ahead of Ottawa's Queer Sphere Expo, I have in studio with us right now Jesse Reynolds from Queer Sphere.
Hi.
Oh, no woot woot this time.
Woo!
Woo!
I already used the woot.
There we go. There we go. We also have Lana Bolton who performs as Candy Secrets.
Hello, everybody.
And we have Kevin Martin, who's the co-owner of a menswear store, Stroked Ego.
Hello again.
So we're talking about everything Pride right now, but before we get into the Pride flag and Arm Pryor and McNabb Brayside and your thoughts on that, you've had this store now for how long, Kevin?
9 years now.
So over the course of 9 years, what changes have you seen when, you have a retail space, and as somebody in the community, in the LGBTQ community, what changes have you seen through the store?
It's really challenging when it happened. I just keep looking back to when I was in high school, and that was in the 80s. And when I was back in the small town that I grew up in, no one was open, no one was out. I don't think things happened until after, people went off to university or whatever. And now in the store, it's such an eye-opener, and it's so gratifying to see that people come in and they're truly themselves. People will come in and they will buy things for their significant other, no matter what sex. People are buying clothes no matter what gender they are. People feel safe. It's a wonderful experience. And I look back onto when I was in high school and just think, wow, we've come a long way. Not saying there's still not a long way to go, but we've definitely made some progress.
And straight guys actually care about what they look like now, right?
That
they
is
come
true.
in, they care about fashion.
Thank
Imagine
Certainly
that.
do. Yes.
Goodness.
Yes, thankfully.
I can't remember which school it is, and I should know because I'm talking about it on the goods this weekend, where it is. But there's a country that has now changed dress codes where guys can wear skirts to school.
Oh.
And the girls can wear the boys' uniforms. It's a private school.
That's
They're
great.
giving them this option now. And it's interesting when you talk about how things have changed over the course of the past years. What I'm wondering, in all of my conversations with people who are trans and, going through a transition, and I see the big difference since 2013. I've been having on-air conversations before the whole Caitlyn Jenner thing and before it was acceptable and popular to talk about in media. I've seen a huge change over the course of those few years. But I almost feel as though for the trans community, it is probably more similar to what it was like for the homosexual community back in the 80s even. I don't know for sure, what can I say, but I get the sense that that's probably where it's at. What do you think, Andy?
I mean, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, we finally have trans rights, which is great. And now, like with passports, you're able to put an X down on the gender marker, which I kind of...
You don't like that though, do you?
I mean, it's great that Canada is so progressive, but once you leave Canada, you're
It's uncomfortable.
Well, it's kind of uncomfortable because not, all the other countries aren't going to know what that is.
Because it's different across borders.
It's completely different cross border. So I mean, I think it's great in some aspects, but I think it's kind of like, it's kind of scary too in a way.
And one time Lana said to me, I worked hard for that F. I want that F on there.
It's true. I did work hard for my F, and I'm glad that I have my F on my passport. But I mean, I mean...
Sometimes you just feel like saying F you about it.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I understand. It's okay, David. I didn't even go near that word. We're safe. We're safe. This is News and Views. I'm Dahlia in for Rob. Do I really have to keep saying that I'm Dahlia in for Rob, or have you figured it out already? If you're getting confused, we need to have a different conversation. But I want to know your thoughts when we're talking about Pride Month and when we're talking about, especially Kevin, from somebody who said you came from a small town. So we're talking about Arm Pryor, McNabb Brayside. Oh, you just a little smile where the eyes crinkled up came from you putting up the Pride flag. Thoughts?
Well, it's funny because just in my small town, I'm still friends with someone that I went to high school with, and he is actually a member of the small town council, and it's a town in southern Ontario named Port Perry. And I just noted that he was fighting for a pride crosswalk in my small town that I grew up in, of like 6,500 people. They're actually moving forward with a crosswalk, so I just think that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
So the pride that I think that Arm Pryor should be having right now is really, really prideful.
They could call it Arm Pride just for the
Oh,
weekend.
that's a good idea.
How
Yeah.
about that?
So punny.
What are your thoughts, Candy? How do you feel about the flag being flown for the first time?
I think that's awesome. It's you know, a step in the right direction.
It is.
Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, I
Mr.
agree.
Queer Sphere Expo himself?
Well, exactly, and sort of echo what Kevin said. Is growing up, I never would have thought that being gay would turn into an asset in my life, and in fact, it's something we used to hide as a little boy, And now, I don't believe I would have a career in media if I wasn't gay. So it's blessed me in so many ways that I never thought was possible. So times have changed, honey.
All of the things that, and if I think that if you talk to many people whom we see as accomplished, whom we see as successful, whom we see as resilient, I think that they come from these backgrounds that were on the fringes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was from being in those places that it increased your resiliency, and it also helped you take a stand that connected with people. Because otherwise you wouldn't be where you are, right? So
Yeah,
you
right.
had to connect in some way. And every time you connect with somebody, you help society progress even more to a point of acceptance and not just tolerance. So thank you for that, sir.
Well said, Dahlia.
Well, I do talk for a living. Actually, true story. They don't pay me to speak for 4 hours a day. They pay me to shut up for 20 hours a day. All right, I'm going to shut up. Jesse, tell us about the Queer Sphere Expo. What do we need to know?
So queersphere.ca for all your information. There's a few tickets left, but if you want to see Candy Secret perform, she's going to be on the main stage Saturday at 4:45 and Sunday at 3 o'clock. And the Stroke Digo Fashion Show is both days at 1 p.m. on the main stage. That is what I'm very excited for. A ton of hot models. It's going to be huge. And you can come shop Stroke Digo at the show, too.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit of stuff there, and thankfully I won't be one of the models on the stage or helping Candy out with her.
I think the next thing we have to do is get 5-foot models up there. That's our next point. that
Hey,
we have.
Kevin?
I wore a tuxedo for high school prom, by the way. A guy's tuxedo, not even like a Rihanna, I'm a fancy girl with lots of money tuxedo. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us. If you missed any of this conversation, you can still check it out on Facebook Live. That's not going anywhere. Again, we're not like Justice Committee. We don't censor things, especially when we have a hearing on free speech. The Justice Committee censored a hearing on free speech, Jesse.
Unbelievable. Outrageous.
It's outrageous. So if you want to just lay back and have fun this weekend, head over to the Queer Sphere Expo. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Dahlia in for Rob on News and Views. And still ahead, a little politics for lunch. 0 calories. That's next right here on 580 CFRA.